Okay, we are on a hot streak right now. This is the 5th week in a row. I think not only have we actually done the interview, pre-recorded it, drank beer while we recorded it, but also we're outdoors in a beautiful beer garden as well. We're at Last Days of Autumn right now, but we're not hanging out. Well, we are hanging out with. We have another interview crasher, which seems to be another trend of the show as well.
It's not a bad trend.
It's not. This is Zach, the brew bus guy, hanging out with Mama Calls Me Kevin.
That's me.
And our interviewee today, who I think we probably already mentioned in the show because we were pretty excited about it. We were hanging out with Tyler right now from Knox Hops. Tyler, how's it going?
Hey, doing pretty good.
Thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And then also our crasher today. So full confession, we decided to do the interview at Last Days of Autumn. Great beer garden. Mike happened to be here doing some prep for Taco Tuesday.
I just needed somebody to drink with today.
And we rose to the challenge, my friend.
Yeah, so Mike showed up expecting to just do some prep work, and shocker, we've derailed those plans just a little bit.
I'm prepping.
So
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Mike from Last Days hanging out with us as well. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Wonderful.
Doing good.
It's a hot day today for sure.
A little bit.
So what's the best thing to do on a hot day?
Drink beer.
Drink a cold beer. So let's get started with some beers. What are you sipping on? Mama Calls Me Kevin.
I am having the Biffs.
Ooh.
Yes.
And you, Mike?
Panda Magic Pale Ale.
Panda Magic Pale Ale.
Yeah, I've got the OG Biffs too.
And I'm sipping on the Kentucky Common.
Of course you are.
So I have a few questions for you, Mike. Give us the 2-second story of the Biff's Best IPA.
Oh, Biff's, it's the beer I used to make back when I was home brewing back, 15, 18, however many years ago it's been now, that would fill my kegerator until we drank it all, and then I'd make it again.
And so when you started a brewery, you definitely had to have a beer called Biff's Best.
Well, you really want me to get into the name of this one?
Sure.
Goofing off at my previous employer, we decided to come up with if we could name ourselves our own porn star name.
Yeah.
I was going to be Biff Silverman.
Biff Silverman.
Yeah.
So this And tell us about the Panda Magic, what you're sipping on.
This is just a pale ale that we made for our buddy's wedding reception that was supposed to happen, but it didn't.
I wonder why.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's about 5%, but it's he decided what hops he wanted to put into it, and when we came up with a recipe and brewed it for his wedding.
That's awesome. And the Kentucky Common is obviously a favorite of mine, and you knew that already.
Yeah, I already knew that.
Reminds me a lot of the pre-pro, but a nice, easy drinking, well-balanced, malty, ale. It's my jam. So.
I actually have a keg of the Common on at my kegerator at home right now.
Oh,
Nice.
That's so we're gonna do the next interview at Kevin's house. Well,
My kegerator's bigger.
yeah. I always like to. That's perfect. I always like to make the joke about people who brag about their basement bar. A lot of people don't know this, but Nico at Schultzbrow has an apartment above the brewery.
Yeah.
Oh
And I've
yeah.
always been like, dude, his basement bar, your basement bar is nice. But
Yeah.
it's got a whole German kitchen, a beer garden, 20 taps with people that serve it to you, and pretzels, and pays his rent, and it's a pretty sweet basement bar.
No doubt.
Well, I love this. I love spending time with you all and hanging out on the beer garden. So let's start off with a toast. Cheers.
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 Boom, boom. So we always talk about beer. We love talking about the brewing industry. But one of the things that's really fun for me is the businesses that exist inside the brewing industry that aren't brewers. For example, one of them is myself with Knox
Right.
Brew Tours. We are part of the craft beer ecosystem, if you will, but we're not brewers, we're not retailers, we're not distributors. And we're going to highlight today one of those sort of businesses, and that's Knox Hops. Knox Hops is a hop farmer, which Tyler, I'm sure, will tell us more about in just a minute. But hops are a crucial, important ingredient in beer. You can't call it beer without hops. They're grown mostly in the Northwest in the United States and a lot in Germany as well. But we have an excellent hop farm in Knoxville. simply put, Knox hops, right? I love it.
Yeah, easy.
I'm pretty sure if we listed all the businesses in Knoxville that had the word Knox in it, it would be like 300 strong.
It's word recognition.
But yeah, give us sort of the elevator pitch. What and who is Knox Hops?
So, Knox Hops is a family-owned farm, third generation. My great-grandfather bought the farm in the 1920s, and we've had, in the 20s we had peaches. Past then we've had cattle and hay, and about 6 years ago we decided to do something a little different. We saw a few different breweries popping up in town, and me and my partner Brian decided to make a little investment, try and grow some hops and see how it went, and it's gone great ever since. We supply hops for once a year beer. We don't supply every 1 year round. It just doesn't work in Tennessee like that. But once a year, you can buy fresh Cascade hops and do a once a year beer, which is something that you couldn't get before in Tennessee.
Yeah, and I think it's so much. I've been out to the farm. It's a beautiful space. I've had more than a few beers there myself. a couple hundred, and it's a great spot. So what was sort of is there a defining moment in time where you recall being like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna look into really growing hops, and then a moment where it kind of sunk in that it was actually happening?
Well, we were at the farm one night and we were talking and looking over the plot of land that we had to be able to do something, and we had pitched some ideas on blueberries and peaches again and different things, and we're drinking a beer thinking about what we're gonna do, and then my partner says, well, how about we grow hops? They've got to grow here, right? And we started looking into it and realized that they might grow here, so we took a plunge on it.
And it's worked out.
Yeah, it's worked out great.
How does growing hops in East Tennessee compare to other parts of the United States?
You definitely don't get the yield you get in, where the climate's just a little bit better and the soil's better, but you get a different quality of hop. You get a hop that a fresh hop, not a pelletized hop. So in regions where if you want to do a fresh hop beer, it has to consider it a fresh hop beer. It's got to be put in within 24 hours really of the boil to be a fresh hop beer.
Yep.
24 hours of picking, and you can't do that when you have to get them from Oregon or Washington. So,
and I'm not an expert on farming or plants for that matter, but part of the appeal to fresh hop beers or to using hops within 24 hours of being removed from the plant is that they still contain some of that moisture, right?
Yeah.
What is that, I guess, the significance of that for a beer?
Well, you just it's like using a spice that's fresh instead of a dried spice.
Gotcha.
So say fresh cilantro instead of dried cilantro on something. It's just a whole nother flavor profile.
More vibrant and
Yeah.
more sort of,
Definitely.
I don't know, pure is not the right word, but more authentic to the actual plant itself.
What do you think about that, Mike? You agree?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Mike, tell us about your experience as a brewer with
To me, the difference is kind of like,
fresh hops.
buying that little plastic lime juice bottle at the grocery store versus cutting open a lime and squeezing it in your face. I mean, that's kind of the difference you get from pelletized to fresh hops.
So sometimes when you're looking at a beer menu, you'll see fresh hop, you'll see wet hop. For the most part, they pretty much mean the same thing.
Yeah.
And wet hop beer season is one of my favorite beer seasons, but it always gets overshadowed by Oktoberfest style beers or even sometimes pumpkin beers.
Not this year.
Not this year. No, people are still going to do Oktoberfest
I know.
style beers, I'm sure. But yeah.
It's July. It's time for pumpkin beer.
And another thing is, yeah, that's so true.
Candy canes are next week.
Yeah. Another thing too is you don't see a lot of packaged fresh hop beers because they're meant to be drank.
They don't last.
They don't last, so you don't want to see them sit on the shelf for a while. So it's a rare beer style that you can find at breweries on draft for about 2-3 weeks out of the whole year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how does growing hops in East Tennessee compare to peaches or blackberries? I mean, I'm assuming that it's been more challenging than some of those other
Well,
plants that you
yeah, there's definitely been no support. Being the only hop grower, when the county agricultural agents come out and these are the first hop plants they've ever seen, you don't get too much support. We have gotten some support through the University of Virginia, who they also grow hops up there, and that's the closest we can find to us. So I guess winging it is probably the best way. Got a background in horticulture, so we wing it the best we can, and we've definitely learned over the last 6 years what to do and what not to do.
Didn't you get some help from Lily Pad, Dell up at Lily Pad?
Oh yeah, Lily Pad. Our plants actually were propagated through Lily Pad.
Were they?
So yeah, all of our plants came from Dell out at Lily Pad.
Yeah, there's a great little brewery and campground in Lansing, Tennessee called the Lily Pad, and they also
That's our
grow
secret
a
place.
little
Don't
bit
give
of
it
hops,
away.
too. I know. I don't want to.
Just don't talk about it on the radio.
Yeah. I know the brewery's open right now, but I don't think the campground's open yet. But I'm pretty excited about that place. It's a cool spot. So you're in year 6 now.
Year 6, yeah.
And how has the plant and the farm changed over the past 6 years?
So in hop growing, you really don't get your full quantity until about year 3. We saw a really good stand on year 2, which is when we first started working with Mike at Last Days, and he was the first to buy, the first to try brewing a fresh hop beer. This is year 6, and it is unbelievable. It is the best by far. Essentially double the quantity we've had in the past years. So
Yeah. Have you seen, I guess, a quality change as well, or has it been pretty awesome since the beginning?
oh yeah, we've definitely seen a quality change this year. Bigger hops, more consistent. They're all turning and drying out exactly how they should, the same rate. So we've got some right here on the table. We're checking out there.
Yeah, for those of you maybe watching on our YouTube channel and those listening on the radio, we do always video record our interviews as well and post them on YouTube, so
That's
you can
right.
check out. If you want to know what Tyler and Mike look like, you can check out our YouTube channel.
No one wants to see what I
Just-
look like.
Yeah, just go to YouTube, Knox on Tap. And Tyler brought with him an actual vine here, which is not a vine. It's similar to a vine, but different. And we've got some hops with us right now. And these, if you've never seen a hop before, I think the thing they most remind me of is like a Brussels sprout or sort of an artichoke. But
I
more,
think you're crazy.
more of a Brussels
Yeah,
sprout.
I don't see
You
that.
think this looks like a Brussels sprout?
I mean,
No.
It's kinda
look-wise,
got a-
maybe look-wise,
No,
but
Kind of like a little green
I didn't say
pine
it
cone as far as
smelled-
like
yeah,
the
green.
look of it.
Yeah, green pine cones.
It is
probably
called
better.
I've been able
hop
to,
bud.
since we've been getting these, what is this, year 5 we've been doing this?
Yeah, this is the 5th
I was
year.
trying to figure that out, but I can tell, you can even notice from year to year, depending on, like, if it's a rainy, year or not, you can tell a difference in the hops from year to year, too, which is pretty wild.
And just the environment, mostly.
I mean, some years they're more grapefruity and just, you peel them open and that's all you smell is grapefruit. And sometimes it's maybe a little grassy, or sometimes it's, it seems to be different from year to year,
So real quick, let's break down hop varieties and why and what hop variety you all are growing. The best analogy that I have found to describe to people how hop varieties work is to use the analogy of apples. You have Granny Smith, Red Delicious, Gala, hundreds of varieties of apples. And they're all apples, but they smell different, taste different, feel different, look different. And the same is true for hops. Not all hops are created equal. If someone said, I've never ever eaten an apple before, and you gave them a Granny Smith and they took a bite out of it and said, oh, this sucks, it's sour, I hate all apples. Well, that sucks for Red Delicious, right? I mean, all the other.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes with hops, where people will drink an IPA or drink a single hop beer and they won't like it, and let's say it's Mosaic, and then they just assume that they don't like all hops. But the variety is very vast. So of all the varieties out there, you could have chosen any of them. You chose Cascade. Tell us about that decision and what drew you to the Cascade variety.
Well, Cascade is one of the most temperamental hops, or least temperamental hops. They grow well. Any of the C hops will grow well in Southeast. So Cascade, Centennial, Chinook.
Columbus
Columbus is on the line there.
Okay.
So
Citra?
Well, Citra is a trademarked hop. So
Oh, that's
you can't-
right.
Yeah,
Unless you
can't-
have the.
unless you have the license, you can't grow Citra.
But I can.
Yeah, tell
Hold my
me
beer.
I can't.
Hold me a
I
beer.
mean, I'll
Watch
be able to
this.
sell it. But
Yeah, but Cascades definitely do best in the Southeast, and it's just a good all-around hop to use. They grow well.
And Cascade was sort of made famous by the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which
Oh, yeah.
is
Yes, it was. Well, it's got. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got the grapefruit. It's got the citrus. It's got the pine. It's got the. So you get a little bit of everything in a hop, out of these. I mean, that's why they were used so heavily,
oh yeah.
So I agree with you. I'm just smelling this hop over here and really enjoying it. And when you break it open, it smells even stronger, which is awesome. So this year, how many hops did you grow?
So hops are a perennial, so they come back every year. We have approximately 400
Pounds?
400 plants, and we're going to get a little less than 400 pounds this year.
How many of those are spoken for?
About 200 are spoken for so far. So we've definitely got some room to get out to these breweries, and rainy days make for good brewery talking to brewers. So
Yeah.
we've got to get out and sell some more.
So what is the best way for a brewery that's interested in hops to get a hold of you, or if there's a home brewer that wants to experiment with some fresh brewing at home?
You can just message us through the Knox Hops Facebook, Instagram. Easy to find us. We're the only hop yard in Knoxville. So
Are all so you've picked some, and some are still on the vine.
yeah, we kind of do a rotation of harvest. We're able to do that by cutting the plants back a little earlier, some of them, and letting some of the plants run a little later. So we kind of have about a 2 to 3 week rotation of harvest if need be. That way they all don't have to be picked at once.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's Zach here again with Brew Bus Guy. You're hanging out on Knox on Tap on Tuesday nights. We always have fun listening, drinking beer,
Oh yeah.
hanging out in house. Mama calls me Kevin as our co-host, joining me as well. Our which again seems to be a trend. Our interview crasher of the week is
Yes.
Mike. We're actually at his place, so it kind of worked technically
Technically,
crashing.
we're crashing.
Yeah.
He's
And,
the one that belongs.
So there.
and our guest today is Tyler from Knox Hops. We've been talking about hops and hanging out and drinking a beer. What would be the dream for Knox Hops? What is the future? What is, if you could control the future, what would you hope for Knox Hops and maybe Knoxville beer in general?
So for what we've seen in different areas, especially the Pacific Northwest, where fresh hop season is just as big as Oktoberfest. It's huge. What we'd like to see is a fresh hop festival, if you can. Yeah, not just so we can get different breweries to brew a beer, and right before Oktoberfest, let's have a fresh hop festival where it's nice. It's summertime. A good fresh hop beer is nice and light and delicious. Let everyone try a fresh hop one. Get a good festival going.
You can do a fresh fest.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Fresh
And
to
you could
death.
also, we could also technically take these hops that you brought with you today and put these in the beer and flavor the beer that
Straight
you've
in.
already got.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were picking out at Clinch River Brewing, and last weekend, and I had a guy just pick one off and just put it right in his mouth, and that's the first I've seen. That's kind of like putting a whole lime in your mouth. It's pretty potent.
Well, Mike, can you give us any sort of idea or teaser into how Last Days might be using some of these fresh hops this year?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we started this single hop series back, I don't know, in March maybe.
The Oracle, right?
The Oracle. And we've done Columbus. We actually did, our very first one was actually Cascade, but it was pelletized. A couple other, we did Idaho Gem. So this is, since we've got these available, we're going to do this as part of our series. This will probably be number 6. Oracle number 6 will be a fresh hop beer.
With hops from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yep, sure is.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, Mama calls me Kevin. Have I left anything out? Did I forget anything?
They're keto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
It is very pungent in the mouth.
You
Yeah.
took the dive.
Did you
I
try
did.
that?
You're eating one right
I
now.
am. Now you
Put it
mentioned you
between
have,
your cheek and gum.
yeah, the Von Orr in me should already know that. You mentioned you have like 400 plants. About how much area does it take to grow, say, that quantity? Or if someone wanted to start a small, I've noticed that a lot of the local breweries have a few going. What kind of, if someone just wanted to try their hand at throwing a couple of plants up, how much area do you need to do something kind of like that?
So hops are they're like a grapevine on steroids.
Okay.
So they'll grow. They actually say that the old Jack and the Beanstalk stories were about hops.
Oh.
Yeah, they weren't. It wasn't ever a beanstalk. It was a hop plant. So that's old folklore. But hops will grow on a trellis about 16 feet tall, and ours this year actually went 16 feet up and then came down another 4 feet. So they could have climbed a 20-foot trellis this year, which is unbelievable.
That's amazing.
And our farm has the 400 plants, and we have about 1,200 linear feet of trellis to grow that on. So we have six rows at 200 feet each.
About like a football field, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
football field of green. It's beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you had any neighbors looking over at the farm being like, what are y'all doing over there?
I always wonder what the subdivisions around us think.
Yeah.
We're based in the middle of West Knoxville, so having a farm out there is rare these days.
What has been, this is my last question, and thanks again for hanging out with us and drinking a beer and for your time. What, as you look back on the last 6 years of what is so far the Knox hop story, what has been a personal highlight for you, or something that, a memory that you think you'll never forget, that growing hops has allowed you to to be a part of Knoxville and to do?
Oh, definitely just getting in with the whole Knoxville brewery crowd. We couldn't be more welcomed in. I remember the first time we started talking to people was the second year of Brewibition.
Mm-hmm.
We went when it was next to Barley's, and
I remember that it rained really hard for a
Yeah,
minute.
that was, yeah.
we went there and immediately just got scooped up, and people were pouring us beers and wanting to talk and having a great time. And it's amazing how welcoming and what a family Knoxville beer is.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a family.
Awesome.
For sure. Cool. Mike, you want to throw anything else out there?
Yeah, you haven't talked about how phenomenal, why we're going through all this. Why are we picking fresh hops? Why are we doing this?
Hit us with it.
The freaking beer is amazing, dude. You haven't brought that up at all. You get one shot at this year, and that's it. And then you don't get it again for a year. And you can't duplicate it with pelletized hops.
And even if you duplicate everything next year, the plant's still different because it's fresh.
It's unbelievable. You got, and it doesn't last a long time in a keg. You got about 3 weeks in a keg before you start to notice but 3 weeks, man, that's all I drink. That's all I drank for 3 weeks.
I love it.
Sounds great.
Well,
and I got to agree, it's far better, in a beer than it is just popping them right off the plant. I would best describe it, if you haven't tried this, chances are you've been to a dentist and you've had something injected directly into your gums. Now imagine if you had an IPA injected directly into the tender parts of your mouth. That's kind of what it feels like
to
after
eat a
gnawing
hot
on a hop for the duration of, I don't know, say a 23-minute interview. So, yeah, I prefer it in liquid form. But, for research purposes, I had to give it a try.
Absolutely. That's hilarious. I love it. Tyler, thanks for hanging out with us, man. Where's the best place for people to get connected to Knox hops?
Definitely just the Facebook or the Instagram. Just messages on that, and we're easy to find.
Awesome. And thanks for hanging out with us, Mike. Thanks for letting us crash your
Yeah,
work
thank
day. And Mama calls me Kevin. I don't think I've ever given you a shout out on the radio for always bringing the equipment and the gear, for setting everything up. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Look forward to hanging out with y'all in the future, and look forward to reporting on when these fresh hops or beers are going to come out as well.
I'm intrigued. I need to learn more about this. I do.
Let's do it.
We're picking ours Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
Wednesday
Out
at
here on
5.
the patio at Last Days.
Yep.
Oh, come on with it.
All right.
Awesome.
Maybe we'll have a follow-up for the YouTube channel. I don't
Yeah,
know. We'll
maybe.
see.
thanks, fellas, for hanging out and being a part of the show. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.